The most limiting factor in pump foiling is the start. The more different starting techniques a foil surfer masters, the more diverse the spots they can ride on, which in turn means they simply have more fun. In this video, I will explain you the 3 most important starting techniques, and I will explain you everything you need to know to learn them safely as fast as possible. After the intro. Before we dive into the different starting techniques, we should first talk about the prior experiences you need to have in order to try these starting techniques.
I could list numerous preparation exercises for each of the following start techniques, but I won't. I believe the best way to learn foil surfing is to go out and practice foil surfing. Let's start with the good news first. Anyone can try any of these start techniques right from the beginning. The most important thing are common sense and some awareness of safety. I recommend wearing a helmet for at least the first 25 tries. Hydrofoils sometimes do funny, unexpected things. Now for the not so good news. Each of the start techniques is really difficult to learn. The best approach is to take your time and see the journey as the goal. Otherwise, frustration can set in quickly and you might give up too soon. If you've never used a hydrofoil before and are completely new to the world of pump foiling, make sure to watch my video Learn Pump Foiling Fast first. In the video I talk about all details you should know, whether it's the equipment you should use or all the essential details about foil control in general. I dropped the link of the video in the video description below.
The most well-known starting technique is the dog start. For most foil surfers, it's also the first starting technique they learn, because it requires the least courage and technical skill. However, the major downside of this starting technique is that it requires a dock, and that significantly limits the choice of spots.
The dog start should be the first start technique every beginner learns. The best condition for it are calm water with no wind or underwater currents. A good dog start is a combination of many small movements that must flow together seamlessly. To simplify the process, I recommend learning the dog start in 3 steps. Stand on the edge of the dock and hold the board horizontally with the foil wings about 5 to 10 cm under the waterline, slightly behind you. Push it past your body and try to jump onto the board in a way that makes you sink down while keep standing on the board. This step helps you to learn how and where to position your feet to balance correctly. Let me give you a better feeling for the right balance. Imagine your foil board is lying on the ground, but instead of a hydrofoil underneath, there is a ball. How would you jump onto the board to stay balanced? This concept directly applies to your hydrofoil. Now try the same thing, but with a few running steps before the final jump onto the board. Your goal is to push off the dock with your last step as powerful as possible to land on the foil board with more forward momentum. Again, the aim is to land in a way that makes you sink down slowly while standing. I call this the Captain Jack Sparrow. Once you land successfully 7 out of 10 times, it's time to move on. Repeat step number 2, but this time push off the dock as hard as you could possibly do to gain a maximum of starting speed. The more momentum you generate in the start, the easier it will be to transition it into a smooth pumping motion.
The drop start is probably the most spectacular starting technique. The big advantage of the drop start is that all you need is an elevated spot nearby the water. You can imagine that finding a high rock or a wall nearby the water is much easier than finding a dock. What I also like about the drop start is the way it can be learned. You can start on a very low height and then gradually work your way up to higher drop starts.
Just like the dog start, I would also break the drop start down into 3 steps, with the understanding that the first step will only work to a limited extent. Why? A hydrofoil generates lift through speed. This means that if you jump onto your foil from a high position, the board needs to be moving fast enough to absorb the impact. If it's gliding too slowly through the water, the foil will stall. To get the foil gliding fast enough through the water, a short run-up is essential. Stand in your starting position, holding the foil board in your hands horizontally over the water, slightly behind you, and throw it into the water. You'll notice that once the hydrofoil hits the water, it will naturally stabilize the whole board. Now jump onto the board without a run-up, trying to land and balance so that you sink down while standing on the board. Once you are comfortable landing on the board, it's time to increase the challenge by adding a little run-up to it. Hold the board horizontally over the water and take 3 big steps back from your takeoff point. Start running with 2 smaller steps and throw the foil board into the water around your second step. With your final step, push off as powerful as possible and try to absorb the impact of the landing with your entire body. The impact of your jump is huge and the foil can only compensate for it through forward momentum. Your goal is to minimize the impact while maximizing both your forward speed and the foil's forward speed. Once you succeed 7 out of 10 times, it's time for the final step, transitioning it into the pumping motion. The same rule applies here. The faster your foil glides through the water and the cleaner you land on the board, the more starting energy you have, making it much easier to get into the pumping rhythm.
And of course, there is the beach start. What looks so simple is actually a real challenge. The beach start is truly difficult to master, but it opens up an incredible number of new foil surfing spots. As you can imagine, wherever there's water, there's probably a beach as well.
A good preparation for your first beach start is the key. Your foil spot should be free of rocks or obstacles and should get deep quickly. A sandy ground would be perfect. You will need a lot of time, and you should allow yourself that time. If you see the journey as the goal, you will reach your goal. But if you try to learn the beach start as quickly as possible, you will need a very high frustration tolerance. Here's my best tip. Meet up with your foil buddies at the beach, bring a speaker, and just have fun. That's how I learned it too. I would also break the beach start down into 3 steps. Your only goal in the first step is to run as fast as possible through about 15 centimeters of water, without slicing your toes with the foil or burying the foil in the sand. The run-up itself is already a huge coordination challenge and needs a few attempts to sink in. Once your run-up is solid, it's time for step number 2. Run up as fast as you can, and as soon as you feel the foil generates enough lift, push yourself up onto the foil board using your arms. It's like a push-up onto the foil board. It's important to understand that you need to push yourself onto the board, not push the board down. If you push the foil into the sand, it will get stuck and you just faceplant over the top. Now try step 2 with a maximum run-up speed and start pumping as soon as you're on the board. If you started fast enough, you will get into a pumping rhythm easy. If not, you have to fight for every bit of speed until you get it going.
Well, so far so good. That's all you need to know about the different starting techniques. And last but not least, I would like to talk about the common mistakes that most foil surfers make when trying to learn these starting techniques.
In all of these start techniques, there are only 2 common mistakes. Mistake number 1 is the right balance. Most beginners jump too far back on the board. Just because the foil is mounted at the back doesn't mean you should land there. The center of the board is also the foil center of balance. Mistake number 2 is the right speed. Many start too slow. A start is only too fast if your technique can't keep up. With a good technique, more speed always means more stability.
That's it from my side. I hope the video was inspiring to you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out via email. Leave a comment below. I will do my best to answer all the questions. And yeah, until then, I hope to meet you soon somewhere on the water, trying out some of these starting techniques together. Thanks for watching and hope to see you soon again. Peace.